Episode 6 of The Beardcaster. My name is Scott Sikora, and I am The Beardcaster. Welcome once again to The Beardcaster. Like I said, my name is Scott Sikora, and I am The Beardcaster. I want to thank you for listening to the podcast that covers all things beard and mustache and discusses styles, events, care, and the people involved in the scene. Thank you once again to everyone who has emailed me, messaged me, listened, talked to me out in public about the podcast. Thank you so much. It makes me feel like I'm not wasting my time doing this. Every week, there seems to be more and more listeners, more and more feedback, and I'm very grateful for all that. So thank you so very much. And you can go check me out on iTunes and Stitcher. Go and subscribe, leave some feedback, whatever you want. It's all cool to me. If you don't want to listen to it, and it's not for you, then don't listen to it. If you like it, tell a friend, share it with a family member. Maybe your grandma will be into it. Maybe she secretly likes beards and she gets off rubbing beards, but she never had a chance to, and this could be her way to get all excited and whatever. Hey, by all means, everyone's into what they're into. So let me start off by talking briefly about a couple podcasts that I recently discovered. One of them not so recently, another one within the past couple weeks. So I wanted to talk about those because when I first started this podcast, I did not have the intention of starting a podcast about growing beards or beard-related stuff. My original plan was to actually have a podcast that was revolving around UFOs and the paranormal stuff. And it was going to be kind of like pro and con, kind of back and forth with a friend of mine. And as we were preparing this podcast and getting ready for it, I was getting information, getting stuff lined up. And next thing I know, there was like 4 or 5 new podcasts that pop right at that time. I mean, it couldn't have been more of a deflating moment of, geez, man, I was working so hard on doing this. And now there's just, number one, there was so many podcasts out there about the topic, but for there to be 4 or 5 new ones that come out exactly right before I'm going to do it, I was just going to be someone else that's doing a podcast that everyone else is doing with the same 50 guests that keep getting recycled episode after episode between all the 20 or 30 podcasts that are already out there. So I was like, shit. So I kind of had to start over with what I was going to do. In the meantime, I'm trying to think, I'm like, well, what do I know anything about? And I'm like, beards. Well, it really originally started with the fact that I was writing an article for my blog called Bearded Men of Ufology, and it was supposed to be a take on guys that are in UFO or into the UFO field and why they have certain types of facial hair. And then it just kind of turned into, as I looked at it more, I'm like, well, I kind of know a lot about beards, and I go to a lot of contests. I know a lot of guys in the thing. I compete a lot. I'm really involved in my club. I help organize events. I deal with charities, so I guess I know quite a bit about growing beards. I've had one for over 20 some years of my life. I guess I'm kind of an expert on it, so why not just turn that information into a podcast? So that's why I decided to do this podcast. So as I was kind of deciding about doing this, I came up with the name, The Beardcaster, did a Google search, it was available, I bought it, and then that was it. I was gone to the races. Didn't even look or think about looking on iTunes or any of the other things about there being any other podcasts similar, or whatever. So I just started going, getting my ideas flowing, figured out what I wanted to do. So I finally launched, and after about a month or so in, I decided, maybe I'll start looking to see if there are any other podcasts that might be similar to what I'm doing. Or I kind of started looking, and I've come across this podcast called Attack the Beards. Now I was like, shit, I probably totally ripped off their exact idea, and I feel like stupid now because they've already recorded a few episodes and been out there. And so I decided to download a whole bunch of episodes, and I started listening to them. And our shows are definitely a lot different, but I give it to those guys. That is a very entertaining podcast to listen to, and it's exactly what I think my friends and I would have done 10 years ago if podcasting would have been around. It's a group of guys, shout out to David and Colin, but it's a group of guys, them and some of their friends, and they just sit around and they talk about craft beers, drinking, video games, movies, and whatever they feel like it. And in fact, their last episode, which I just listened to today, just cracked me up because they started a GoFundMe to get a pizza. Just they lost their shit when someone donated $35 so they could get their pizza. So I don't want to ruin any more about it, but definitely go check out Attack of the Beards. You can find them also on iTunes and Stitcher. So after I started listening to this podcast, I'm like, maybe I should start looking for some more. So I started looking again, and I come across this other podcast called the Drunken Beardsman Podcast. And I was like, shit. Once again, started researching this, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, crap. I'm like, another podcast, someone's going to think I ripped off the idea, and so shit. So I downloaded a couple episodes of this. And as I started listening to this podcast, I was like going, holy shit, this podcast is awesome. It's just everything that I guess I want my podcast to be. It's just the production value is amazing. Dan, the host of the show, is very eloquent and from Australia, which is even cooler. So he's got the cool Australian accent, and I can't even understand some of their, the slang that they use over there. So I get confused every now and then. As I'm listening to this podcast, I'm just going, wow, this is great. And he talks about things that are going on in the news. He has a lot of beard-related stories. So the last 2 episodes that I listened to, he covers, which is even more cooler. His last 2 episodes heavily involved Star Wars, meaning the movie The Force Awakens. And he's also a big gamer, so he talked a lot about Star Wars Battlefront, which is one of the games that I'm really into right now. It was really great. And then he goes on into the latest news stories that he finds on the internet and stuff like that, or different articles submitted by different people. Just a great, all-around awesome podcast. So once again, you can find that podcast at thedrunkenbeardsman.com. Subscribe, I believe, on iTunes and Stitcher. I'm not 100% sure because it's still kind of new to me, but I'm trying to consume as much of it as I possibly can. And Dan and I have been emailing, and he's just an awesome dude. I hope that we can definitely create a great relationship between all 3 shows and kind of get more people involved in listening to podcasts, because I just don't think there are too many people out there right now listening to podcasts. It's still kind of a new type of thing out there. So if we can start getting more people into podcasting, which I think is a very valuable medium out there, I hope that we can, together as a team, do that. So that's what I wanted to share with you about what I've discovered in podcasting so far, the 2 months that I've been doing it. So on to my interview. So I met up with a friend of mine whose name was Jamie. Jamie is what we would call in the bearding world, I guess, or even in the regular world, as a fair-weathered beardsman. Now, what I mean by that is we all have a friend, and every single one of us knows a guy who, about October, November, decides, I'm going to stop shaving. So they stop shaving, they go all the way till April, May, and then next thing you know, they shave it off and they stay clean-shaven all summer long. And then once again, once October, November hits, they start growing again. So I just always thought this was kind of an interesting thing because it's not something that I'm into, and I do know quite a few people that do this. So I thought it would be interesting to talk to someone that does it. Another reason why I wanted to have a discussion with Jamie is because he is a writer for a local newspaper in our hometown. Now, he mostly deals with sports, so I thought it would be interesting to talk to him about different topics that were going on in the sports world pertaining to mustaches and beards. And I know that there's been a few interesting articles floating around the internet for the past couple of years about hockey and baseball and football and all that stuff, so I figured I'd talk to someone who was into sports and would know a few things about the fun things of growing mustaches and beards in relation to sports news. So without further ado, I'd like to share this episode, or this interview that I did with Jamie about being a fair-weather beardsman and talking about sports and a little bit of politics. It just happened, so my apologies. Enjoy this interview and action. I am sitting here with James T. Ward, which I'm pretty sure that your parents, that middle initial is for Tiberius, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Because they were huge Star Trek fans?
They were, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, okay, James Tiberius Ward.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about who you are.
Well, I'm your friend, first of all.
Well, yes, I know that.
Which is really the only thing that qualifies me to be doing this interview, I think, or this podcast.
Okay,
but
well, I'll preface this by saying the reason why I am interviewing Jamie is because he is what we call in the bearding world as the fair weather beard grower, the guy that, hey, it's November, it's time to start shaving or stop shaving, grow a beard, and then maybe around March, I got to cut it off because it's going to be too hot in the summertime. So then you shave off.
And that is exactly what I am.
So for all the years I've known him, he's been able to grow this magnificent beard that could just turn into this magnificent mane, facial hair mane, but he cuts it off just like he did right before this. So you won't be able to see. I'm looking at this nice, clean-shaven, handsome man who cut himself really well.
I did, yeah.
But
I did.
So
this is the first year, Scott, I actually had two. I went through 2 cycles this season. I don't typically do that. It's typically a one cycle start, like you said, October, November, even December, keep it into March and April. Mm-hmm. This year I decided to get rid of it, and then I grew a second one, and then I got rid of it again. So
now you're going for a third one?
No, I will not.
It's
done.
All right, so mid-February, you're staying clean till about when?
It's usually right around Halloween that I begin to think, okay,
it's time to do it.
It's time to do it. Yeah.
Do you notice? Does it keep your face warm?
It does. It absolutely does.
Is that why you do it?
That's not exactly why. No, I think beards are they're definitely a big part of who you are, right? Like what. So
you like to change your persona frequently?
Yeah, I hope I don't change my persona, but maybe for the most part, it's just a kind of a look because when the seasons change and because of the snow and that sort of thing, I do change that look It's pretty stark, but I will say, and this is interesting. I was going to bring this up maybe later, but it's funny that, I can go to work with a beard, shave it at lunch, and come back in the afternoon.
And no one will notice?
And no one will notice. I mean, nobody, not a word. It always amazes me. I don't think we could say that with you. I think it would be pretty different. But
well, there's been a couple times where I've cut my mustache off. That can be a pretty dramatic look where you're always used to seeing someone with a mustache and they cut it off and no one said anything. If you just have a mustache and you cut it off, everyone in the world notices it, but I don't know why.
I don't know.
Maybe your coworkers just have vision impairments.
Well, it's other people too, to be honest. It's even my own mother. It's just...
How about your children?
My children always know. Well, my one child who can talk,
Peter,
who's 3.
Peter's the most awesomest little boy in the world.
He knows, and he says, "Papa, where did your beard go?" And so maybe that just says something about how much we're paying attention to things around us. Or
so you're saying the innocence and the clear view of a child appreciates a beard more?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Hence why Santa Claus is so popular with the young children.
Yeah,
until Santa says that he looks like a little strawberry, because that's what he told me when I saw him at Christmas. Santa said I look like a strawberry because he had a red hat on or something.
Yeah,
I felt so bad for Peter because Santa deflated him.
Well, I mean, that's sort of like seeing Santa without his beard. For those who don't grow a real beard, and I don't know what our fellow beardcasters think about Santas who don't grow their own beards.
Oh, yeah.
That's a whole nother episode, I would think.
There you gave me another idea. I can do versus a Santa who grows a beard versus Santa who doesn't, and then it could be like a cage match. So, all right. So when did you start deciding to
Well, you said something when we started, which was that I sort of easily grow a beard. It is a pretty full beard by the time it gets going. But I think a lot of people, and you can think about this yourself, but I think a lot of people, when they first start, they struggle with it. You get to a certain point, if you've never had facial hair, and you get You start to get some of it. You go through that period. I mean, it's
the itchy, scratchy. I get that. If you look at mine, I haven't shaved my cheeks in about 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm ready to cut it off because it's just annoying. So I can understand. I go through the battle of, I have 12 inches hanging off my chin, but then on my cheeks, because I'm strictly a goatee guy, I haven't shaved in about almost a month, and it irritates me. It irritates me.
You hear it all the time. People they're in that sort of, that scrub, that in-between thing.
Scrub or scruff.
Scruff, yeah. And then you're just like, I was thinking like of the Australian outback, the scrub.
The scruff on the Barbie?
Yeah. But
throw another scruff on the Barbie.
But that's the hardest. That's when you're just like, I gotta just get rid of all this.
Yeah.
But then once you get past that point, then I think you're pretty much good to go. You sort of forget whether it's the itchiness, the scratchiness.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of my story was for the years and years I tried to grow. I'd be like, I'm going to grow my beard out, and I'd grow it for like about a month or two, and then it would just get annoying, and I'd cut it off. I'd be like, shit. Start from scratch again, grow it for 2 or 3 months, and then be like, I'd cut it off. And then finally, about, 2000 or something was finally when I was like, screw it, I'm just going. And I went, and I went, and I went. And then it gets to a point where you go through different stages. You go like through the weird teenage years of it being like awkward and stuff, and then finally, after a couple months, it just there it is. And
you also you kind of look. You either look like you're on a like a 20-day bender of some kind, right? Like you just look like you're disheveled, and it's like, hey, are you okay? When you're first growing that beard, and it's not sure as to whether or not you're either purposely growing a beard or you've just given up on life and you've stopped.
Well, yeah, that is true, because it's definitely an acquired look. But one thing for you is you've always manicured yours very nicely. It's always shaped nice. Every time I see you, I marvel at how nice your beard looks.
Wow.
For a guy who just grows it a couple months of the year, you have a very, very nice beard. And I'm not trying to get into your pants.
Well, and I went through some periods where it was difficult, and then I finally got through. You get over that hump, right? It's like anything. You get over it, and then you're really happy with the fact that you did it and your friends gave up or whatever. And I would like to state that I've never done any of the no shave November,
and that's
or any of the.
You are not what I would constitute a hipster beard grower. And that's specifically why I wanted to talk to you, because since I've always known you, you've always been that grow beard in the wintertime guy, shave it off in the summer.
Yeah.
And that's you. That's the way you've always been. It's not a trendy thing.
2007, I would say, would be the... So, I mean, it hasn't been all that long.
So we're coming up on almost 2 decades.
It will be. No, 1 decade soon.
But almost 2, though.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
It could potentially be 3 decades we're looking up at the door of right here.
Yeah. So then once I had grown it, and I was very happy with it, and as you know, you get to a certain stage, you have to think about, well, how big do I want this to go?
That's always a question everyone asks.
When?
Yeah.
For you, it defines you now, really. It defines you.
Well, when you're someone who've had, I've had a beard at least this length or longer for close to 12, 13, 14 years, that becomes part of your identity. So a lot of the guys that aren't the trendy hipster beard growers who grew theirs for 6-7 months and then, the trend's over, move on, who the guys are that believe in growing and who like growing, who that's part of who they are. And I guess, so you walk around town and everyone's like, oh, yeah, I know that bearded guy, because that's who I've always seen for 12 years around town.
That's a guy who's going to start a podcast about beards.
It should be, yes. I'd like to meet him, and maybe I can get interviewed by him. But, that's led a lot to where I'm at with this. It's, hey, I wanted to start a podcast. What can I talk about? What do I really know? And so, of course I know a ton about UFOs. Okay, I'm going to do a UFO podcast. But do I really know because no one knows. You wanna know.
There have to be hundreds of UFO podcasts too, right? I mean,
yes,
there
there are.
has to be.
Yeah. So
the reason I really like this podcast, and when you told me about it, I thought this is really, really neat. Was I thought you have two reactions. You think, oh, I don't know, there can't possibly be enough about beards to talk about to do a whole podcast, and then you think, now wait a minute though, there probably is, and you're paving the way, if you will.
I don't know. See, I never looked. So that's the best part. I just searched I came up with the name The Beardcaster, searched for a domain to see if it was free. It was, and I just went from there. I never even went into iTunes and searched. So for all I know, and I still haven't searched, for all I know, there could be 52 that are out there right now.
I doubt it. Oh. I told a couple of my friends that I was going to do this today, and they didn't quite understand. But I said, I think this is a good idea. It really is.
Well, I appreciate you doing it because I know I tried to corner you a couple weeks ago, and you were a little apprehensive about it. So,
well, we are sitting at the bistro right now, where I would normally be. So I certainly am not giving anything up. I've got my lager.
We got our beers with us, and we're enjoying an afternoon of hanging out. And plus, you and I don't get a chance to hang out as much as we used to. So
that's true.
Getting married, having
left
kids.
Me.
I did leave you, but technically, if you think about it, we are right back where we started.
That's true. Yeah.
We are currently we are sitting at a restaurant in Chardon Square called the Square Bistro, which formerly used to be the Chardon Brew Works, which is pretty much where I met Jamie and Sandy, his wife. And there used to be a bar upstairs, and that's where we're sitting right now with the dinner crowd, which is kind of awkward, but it's all right.
Holding microphones.
Yeah.
Although it looks like everyone else is holding their cell phones.
Yeah.
So we're actually looking at each other.
I know. We're looking into each other's eyes deeply.
That's a little different.
Yes. So as we're kind of discussing this a little bit more, does the environment influence your... I know we said that you grow your beard in the wintertime, it protects you, but would you think that for a majority of people in our area, Northeast Ohio, grow beards for the purpose of keeping warm in the wintertime? Is it an environmental thing, or is it a look thing?
Well, I think it probably had to have started as an environmental thing. There's no question that it keeps your face warm. And, I mean, I know that. The first time even when I shave it, it's not like it's the middle of the summertime. It's still right on that cusp. We're still going to get some really cold weather in March. Mm-hmm. And when I walk outside of the house, I mean, boom, you get hit.
It's a shock.
It's a shock. And so when you think about here, we're sitting in Chardon, the snow capital, if you will, of probably Ohio.
Yes. I think that is one of Chardon's monikers, is the maple syrup production area and the snow capital of Ohio.
Exactly. So there is a lot of snow, there's a lot of cold, and it helps. It absolutely does. I mean, would you want to have a beard if you lived in the Bahamas?
Maybe.
You might, but it would.
But that would be more
different.
for looks.
It would be more for looks, right? And I'm sure that the beard probably has to have it protects your face first and foremost
from the sun.
Yeah, I guess that's yeah.
Could it protect you from criminals?
It could, yeah. Well, yours could. Who knows what's in there? I mean,
there's nothing in it, but
you could get a concealed carry.
Well, hypothetically, I could come up from around behind someone and choke them to death with it.
Yeah,
I could come up behind them and wrap it right around their neck.
Yeah,
and
you could put some things in there for sure. So
a cake and break out of jail.
You could, yeah. A get out of jail free card
apparently they use cakes to break out of jail these days.
That seems to be big. Putting thing in a cake seems to be a thing for sure.
Wow, that looks good. We got lots of good food coming by us right now.
So I think absolutely the wind and the cold is a reason to have a beard. It's obviously not the only reason, but it's a good reason. And I think if you lived in Antarctica, why not grow a beard if you're able to? I mean, when you think about those hats that we wear, or maybe you're going to rob a bank, you put one of those hats on.
Yes.
I think those were not designed for bank robbing. I think they were designed to keep your face warm. But
the bank robbers,
when you go skiing, you put the goggles on, and usually you've got something covering your mouth, right? So you have an entire thing, which is just a fake beard.
Simulated beard.
It is yes.
Except for the goggle part.
Right.
Okay, so when was the first time you grew? When did you start?
Well, like I said, probably a lot of trial and error in the sense that, I'd like to grow a beard. And I did. My father always had a beard.
So you grew up around, what about the rest of your family? Uncles, aunts?
My mother did not have a beard. But
good.
But my dad had a beard my entire life. Today he has a goatee.
All right.
Which is as close as he's gotten to not having a beard.
Yeah.
Is a goatee.
It's like you can't give it up. You got to keep something.
His whole life.
But just imagine if you shaved it off, how dramatic that would make everyone feel around him.
Yeah, I'd like to.
It's just like traumatized.
I should have called him and asked him, why did you have a beard your whole life? But he did, and so it was normal to. Obviously, given that I was around him every day, it was normal to think that a man should have a beard. A real man.
A real man.
Who's going to chop firewood.
So he chopped firewood?
Yes, every day he chopped firewood.
Good.
And he had a beard. So at that point, when I finally ended up growing one, I was very happy with it, and I liked the look. It's funny, right? Because some people in your life really like the look.
Yeah.
And then others will be like, I don't know, I kind of liked this or that. And so, and that's why I started.
All right, cool. And so then what point did you turn into the fair weather beard grower?
It was with another friend of ours. You remember Michael Moon?
Michael Moon.
Right? You know that I'm a big baseball fan. One of the benefits of living in Northeast Ohio, I think, that we have is that we experience 4 real seasons, right? I mean, they're all right there exactly how we all imagine.
Not at the same time, though.
Not at the same time, but when we get through all of this, when all of that snow melts and it's time to play some baseball and or start to go do things outside again, it seems like the beard should go. It's almost like a ritual. It's like, if I'm going to go outside in the sunlight again, let's get rid of the facial hair and bring back.
I see. I can get. It's like cleaning yourself for the spring.
You know, and
spring cleaning, spring training, spring cleaning. I see where you're going here. Very good.
You're taking something away. It's that's why it's really it's that kind of thing. But see, I love the beard though. I really do. And I love people who keep it. But for me, I've got to keep going back and forth. Okay,
so let's dive into your forte right now, which is, as you said, sports. Now, you're a big baseball guy, but what is your position in society?
I'm a writer for a newspaper.
Yes,
local newspaper.
Yes, and you mainly focus on sports.
Mostly, yeah. I mostly write local sports.
All right. So
my position in society is like, wait a minute.
Yeah, it was like I stunned you. Like the look you gave me was like, are you kidding me?
What is your position in society?
Well, that it is not. Is that not what it is?
That is what it is.
It was a little more abrasive way of saying, I guess, instead of like, hey, what do you do for a living?
No,
shucks.
It was good. Yeah. So, but I've been a sports fan my entire life. So, you asked me to think about some ways.
Yes. I wanted you to look into a few, I guess, sport-related beard or mustache type of things, like.
Well, I have something for you. It's a little outside of sports, but I'm a reporter, which means I spend a lot of time looking up things and just sort of researching. The other day, Paul Ryan, who's the new Speaker of the House of Representatives, right?
Yes.
He had what he called his hunting beard. Have you heard this?
Maybe not.
It was about 10 days he had gone without shaving, and he was asked by a reporter about it, and he said that was his hunting beard, which he's from Wisconsin. So maybe when you're out hunting, you don't shave for, I don't quite get it, but he became the first Speaker of the House to have a beard in 100 years. Interestingly enough,
that is a nice fact.
The last one was in 1919, and his name, get this, and this is me. I came up with. I drew the connection here. Frederick H. Gillette.
Oh.
Gillette is like a dirty word.
Yes, for
beard
it is.
growers.
It is.
It's like a dirty word.
That definitely is. Well, here's another fact. You know what today is, right? Lincoln.
Lincoln's birthday.
Yes, there you go. And Lincoln had one of the most iconic beards as a president.
Absolutely.
So do you see how there's like synchronicity
we've
tying in
politics.
right here?
Yeah, we've gone politics.
Well, we don't need to go politics, but it was just today's the day. You brought a political.
Well, I just wanted to bring up, because we talked about baseball for a minute, but the thing about baseball is such a superstitious sport, as you probably know. I mean, you play 6 months out of the year, you fail most of the time, and you believe if you've done something well and you did something a certain way, you
stick with what works.
Stick with what works. So a lot of guys, unless you're a Yankee, a lot of guys end up getting a little bit of facial hair, have a big day, and then they just keep it. And if you look at 2 years ago, the Red Sox, and you can look this up, they went all the way to the World Series and won the World Series. These guys had the craziest beards, all of them.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Probably
I remember
not
that.
every single one, but you
Yes.
remember this. And so baseball is a perfect game for beards because you don't shave for a few days, you hit a few home runs, you decide, well, now I'm not going to shave at all.
Oh, yeah.
And next thing you know, you've got these great, beautiful beards, and baseball really sets it up well for that.
So you mentioned the Yankees. You were telling me that fun little fact last week about the Yankees and facial hair.
There's still zero tolerance for beards. You are allowed to have a mustache.
Like Don Mattingly.
Yes. No beards. And it still stands today. Think about it. Here we are, and the Yankees as an organization say if you play for us, you're not allowed to have facial hair other than your mustache.
I guess that's their choice.
The nerve.
Yeah. Well,
The nerve.
Yeah. Yes. The nerve. Sorry,
nerve.
I didn't mean to. I was kind of trying to be like reasonable with it. Like, hey man, I got a job at McDonald's. I can't have a beard that's 5 miles long because when I dip down into the fryer, it'll light on fire.
There's an obvious reason for that. I guess the Yankees just don't like it. They just, I don't know.
Could it be too much Amish related term wise? I don't know.
It's a idiosyncrasy.
Yes. Okay, another sport where beards play a humongous factor in is, of course, hockey.
Yeah, and then that takes us back to what we talked about with the ice and the cold, and it actually is kind of chilly on the ice, isn't it? I mean,
well, yeah, but you also have the new trend. Well, I wouldn't say it was new. I wouldn't know when it started because I didn't really look it up. The playoff beard.
Same
as
thing.
soon as
Superstition.
Yes. Well, yes, that is true. But last year, if I remember correctly, the commissioner of the NHL was trying to petition the players to stop growing beards and to be clean shaven. Do you remember that?
That's interesting. When I think of hockey players who have beards, there's a certain level of toughness that a beard brings as well.
But his main
a tough sport.
Well, yes, it is. But his main point was that it made them look too rough, and they weren't visually friendly for ratings on TV. Like, he wanted them to look appealing and role model-ish, and these are the types of guys that are going to bring ratings in for the NHL. So we want you to consider shaving your beards off. And
well, you look very pleasing to me, Scott.
Well,
so
I know. I'm not going to shave my beard. I'm not the NHL commissioner. So.
Well, it didn't work, did it?
No, it didn't, because, like you said, once again, it's a superstition. The guys are they'll fight whatever for what they believe in, and obviously the hockey players believe that the playoff beard is the way to go, and it's turned into a trend where it goes into the fans as well. Not only do the players stop shaving, but the fans also stop shaving.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I mean,
they'll do whatever it takes.
The women have the
clothes.
hairiest legs I've ever seen that time of year.
Absolutely. And one other, basketball is not a sport that sort of lends itself to beards. However, the Cavaliers did do the Movember this year, where they grew mustaches in November. A lot of them.
I must have missed that one.
A lot. I mean, it wasn't like Raleigh fingers mustaches, but they all had, not all of them, but a lot of them had little mustaches for
The ones that could grow them?
the ones that could grow them. LeBron had one. He looked like something straight out of the 70s. It was pretty interesting. So.
What about the that nice bearded fellow that plays on the Rockets?
Yeah, James Harden. Known for his beard.
He's a funny guy. I've watched a couple of videos of him online. And the thing is he's very comical about it, but he's one hell of a basketball player.
No, he's one of the best, and beards are in. Football players wear beards. Again, look at linebackers, look at guys that tend to want to be tough, have beards. I don't think there are any quarterbacks that have beards. It's really
Maybe it's an image thing.
Well, part of it's an image thing, and part of it's a toughness thing. We talked about the sort of the toughness that comes with a beard. It's a thing,
and hence why there are no beards in golf.
That's right.
Has there ever been a bearded guy in golf that you can think of, or a mustached guy?
Not that I can.
I can't even think of a mustache.
Yeah, not off the top of my head.
Maybe it's like I could imagine if I'm going down to do a putt, my beard's right in the way. I can't see the ball, so I could understand why.
Yeah, I mean, you could have something that's sort of like scruffy, like you said, really close cropped, and maybe like an Al Borland type.
Oh yeah, that's always a good one. What kind of things did you do? You're all right. What kind of things did you do when you have a beard to take care of it? Do you do anything special?
I just try to trim it up the best I can, and I've gone through a lot of trial and error with that. I've tried to use scissors before, and if you're not careful and you take too much off,
I've been there.
Especially under the chin, you think, oh, I'm just going to go ahead. You look in the mirror, it's all over you.
And then you got to erase that
board
and start from scratch.
Exactly
right. I think that's a major issue with like guys that want to grow a beard is that they want to grow it, and then they start trimming it themselves, and next thing you know, they mess it up, and they got to start all over again.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's probably the biggest debilitating thing in the beard growing world is not enough people are growing them because they start it, and then next thing you know, they
are there people
mess it up.
Who specialize in trimming beards, and
there might be.
Sounds like an episode.
That's what I'm talking about because I'm looking for people who specialize in different things that have to do with beards or mustaches. So that's probably pretty much it.
Yeah, I'm clean shaven now for a little bit, and although I will be back, there's no doubt about it. I actually look forward to both.
Starting in October.
That doesn't make me a purist in any way, and that doesn't even make me my father, who had a beard still has a beard, probably 40 plus years at least. But
sometimes it just gets ingrained in you, like that's just the way it's supposed to be. I think a lot of guys are that way. They were grown up, their dads or their grandfathers had beards, and that's just what they're used to, so that's what they think they're supposed to do.
Yeah, I'm also meaner when I have a beard, so it's a relief to everybody when I come back.
Well,
so what my mother would call my baby face.
Oh. Here's a funny little story. We received a Christmas card from you guys last year, and it was the photo you guys did was a take back to Home Alone.
The
and
original.
It had your son Peter on the front, and he had his hands on his face doing the screamy face like Macaulay Culkin. And there was a picture of you in the corner looking in through the window, and you had your beard, of course. And when we got this, my son looked at the picture, and he's like, "Why are you in their picture?" And I'm like, "I'm not." And I looked at it, and I swear it's like you're my doppelganger. When you grow a full beard and it's short, you and I are identical twins. It's so funny.
I have never received a bigger compliment.
Oh, stop it.
Never. And you're older than me, which means I actually am. I look like you.
Yeah, but you have a nicer head of hair on your head.
I was wearing a cap in that photo. So
yeah, because
we look the same.
Well, every picture you usually see me online, I'm wearing a winter hat that's pulled down really low, and that's what he was wearing. So that was just a fun side fact of of us. So, all right, well, thank you very much. I appreciate you sitting down here with me. It wasn't as bad as you thought it would be.
No, this is great.
Maybe we should make a habit of doing this every so often. You can give me the latest sports information on bearded guys.
Yeah, I could be like a correspondent from out in the field.
Yeah, the sports correspondent. So thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
This is fun. Great.
Until next time, thank you. And I'll be next to Garrison Keeler next time.
That's right. Yeah, check it out.
All right, thank you, Jamie. And cut. Thank you so much, Jamie, for sitting down with me for that little bit and recording that awesome interview. I learned a lot about why guys will tend to grow beards in the wintertime. Apparently, they keep your face warm. I never knew that because I've always had one, so I've never been clean shaven, so I can't honestly say that I know the difference between whether or not my face gets cold when the cold weather is touching my clean shaven face. So thank you for that insight on that. And thank you for the interesting sports stories. And I'd like to make a correction about the NHL story that we talked about. I said in the interview that it was the NHL commissioner requested that the players shave, but it was the NBC, one of the NBC executives that wanted the players to shave because he felt that the clean-shaven face on the hockey player would draw more ratings and make them more relatable by the regular public. So I guess, as we can all see, that didn't really change. So hockey beards are going to always be a trend. And like Jamie said, it's just kind of a tradition. It's superstitious. So as long as that mentality is there, then they're always going to grow them. So I guess in every sport, unless they are not allowed. So once again, thank you, Jamie, for all the insight that you gave us today. Before I roll out of here, I'd like everyone to, if they have a chance, go to my website, beardcaster.com. At the top, you will see a brand new link up there called Products. Now, I've been diligently working over the past 2-3 weeks, scouring the internet for every single beard and mustache oil, balm, wax company that I can find. So far, I've found well over 150, and I've made a link to every single one. I've put their logo on this page, made a link to every single one, so you can go to this page, and what my hopes is that it's just a one-stop shopping mall for anyone who's looking for a new beard or mustache wax product, and they can just go to this website or my webpage and just scroll through all the different images of all the different companies there are, and if one just tickles their fancy, they can click right on it and it'll take you right directly to their page and you can buy directly from them. So I'm trying to cut out all the extra searching that one would have to do to get to all of them at one time. So if you can, check that out. It's going to continuously grow. If you know anyone that has a beard or mustache wax company that wants to get their logo up there, they can email me at thebeardcaster@gmail.com. So check that out. And while I'm winding down, you can once again go check me out on iTunes and Stitcher. And I'd like to end this podcast by playing a song today. Now, right before I recorded this podcast today, I got a text message from my cousin Chris. Now, Chris has been a longtime music maker for as long as can remember, so for many, many, many years. And he finally decided to go the solo route and record his own stuff. So today his music went live on iTunes. So he sent me a text that let me know that it went up. And I listened to the song and I was like, man, this is great. It's such an awesome song. Hey, can I put it up on my podcast when I do it today? And he's like, sure, go for it. So I want to thank you all once again for supporting my podcast. Check me out once again on iTunes and Stitcher. Go to my Facebook page. You can get linked up to all that stuff on thebeardcaster.com. And thank you once again. And here is Sakura with the song Valentine's Day. Thanks.
I wrote a song on Valentine's Day. It's about you and how I love you. I had no money for fresh cut flowers, so I searched for words to show my heart's desire. No fancy melody, with a little smile. Gets us going every time. I really need your easy side. All the promises and the reasons why. I wrote a song on Valentine's Day.